to attend. That's the extent of the apology.
Thank you, Member Sibley's. Could there are some persons who have joined via Zoom. If you could just identify yourself. I think Member Morrison, could you just confirm that you're on? And if there's any other member on, you can just open up your mic and just confirm that you're on.
Dr. Michelle Charles, confirming.
Okay, Dr. Charles is on. And Member Morrison, I see her on.
Confirming.
Okay, so.
Confirming. Good morning.
Okay, so Member Charles and Member Morrison are on via Zoom. Members, I don't have any opening remarks. We're going to go straight into the minutes. We have a short period of time because there's another committee meeting at 12:30, which means we have to leave by just after midday to facilitate the cleaning of the Parliament for the other committee meeting. The minutes were circulated. I know, I don't know if Member Charles or Morrison, if you had an opportunity to read the minutes. I'll just go page by page, and if there are any corrections, just identify the corrections, please. Page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
On 10, Chairman, there's a
Yes, Member Guy.
error in the date of next meeting. It says May the 18th.
And it should have been June 7th.
8th.
June 8th, okay. Thank you, Member Guy. Member Guy, you want to move for the confirmation?
So move, Chairman.
There are a seconder?
I'll second it, Chairman.
Okay, Member Charles has seconded. Thank you. Matters arising from the minutes. Any matters arising, members? And we have an action sheet. The action sheet is being pulled up. It wasn't circulated. It wasn't printed? Okay. All right, we can come back to that. Could we invite in the Auditor General and the Ministry of Finance team, please?
Bring in water.
Morning, members from the Ministry of Finance and the Auditor General's Department. Just before I ask you to introduce yourself, I'm just going to go through the actions which arose from the last meeting. The committee clerk was asked to check whether a resolution had been passed in Parliament regarding the requirement for the audit of the farm work program to be done annually by the Auditor General and a senior officer, and make a copy available to members. The results of that were circulated to members on the May 25th via email. And it came from a report which is from the Public Accounts Committee, a report of the Auditor General on the appropriation and other accounts dated financial year ending 31st March 1989. And I'm just going to read the specific section related to the request. Among the recommendations I made, and this is the Auditor General's report in 1989. Among the recommendations I made for improving the financial management of the program were the following. A, the re-establishment of the management committee, which would meet at least twice yearly. B, the need for formal approval by the committee for all non-routine disbursements of the program's funds. C, the presentation of annual financial statements. D, at least once every 2 years, the program should be audited by the Auditor General. E, the need for strengthening of the program's accounting and internal control systems. And F, a review of the level of the operational cess deducted from workers' wages to meet the administrative expenses of the program. And then and I continue. The accounting officer replied advising inter alia that the matter had been referred to the police. A management committee of 6 members had been re-established. The Toyota Land Cruiser mentioned above had been received by the ministry, and the committee had requested that an annual audit of the program should be done by the Auditor General. He also indicated that most of my recommendations had been accepted and the others were under consideration. So that is the matter which was, the committee clerk was asked to do the research, and she has done so, and just reading for the record so that yes, Member Clerk. Yes, this will be sent to all members via email. Second action, the Financial Secretary had written to the committee requesting that the Chief Internal Auditor be given additional time to provide answers to a number of questions submitted by a member of the committee regarding the Auditor General's lease of premises at Waterloo Road and the department's relocation to Knutsford Boulevard. This information was sent to us last night and is available here. And then the final action, members of the committee had agreed to submit their questions, if any, on the 3 appropriation accounts that are to be reviewed at the meeting today. No questions have been submitted in response to the request from the committee clerk. So those are the 3 action items which arose from our last meeting. Yes, Member Sibley.
With regards to the last action item, when the question was asked, what questions would arise from the appropriation account, my recollection is that I had responded and said that with regards to the variances, questions that would touch on the concern variances of the appropriation account.
You did say that, but I don't think what I read is incorrect, because the committee clerk had subsequently sent an email. All right, Mr. Dillon, could you just introduce yourself and the team members from the Ministry of Finance Internal Audit Team?
Good morning. My name is Richard Dillon, Chief Internal Auditor for the Ministry. To my left is Ms. Kyra Jackson, Audit Manager, and Mrs. Lorraine Bennett, Audit Manager.
Okay, Ms. Blake?
Hope Blake, Deputy Financial Secretary. Sasha Lawrence Rose, Acting Head of the Internal Audit Directorate.
Okay. Madam Auditor General?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Pamela Monroe Ellis, Auditor General. To my right is Owen McKnight.
You could just speak closely to the mic, please.
Oh, I seem to. Yes, to my right is Owen McKnight. Seated behind me is Marlon Macadam, Deputy Auditor General. To his right is Georgia Gale, Finance Director. Accompanying me as well is Carolyn Lewis, Deputy Auditor General. Gervais McLeod, Director of HR. Christopher Hare and Iselin Cooper, Audit Principals, members of the Executive Management Committee. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did I leave out anyone? Oh, sorry. Yes, as well as Shamar Richardson, Internal Auditor, and Gail Lulim, Auditor General, and Siran Bent, Corporate Service Director.
All right, thank you, Madam AG. So, members, we have before us the appropriation accounts of the Auditor General's Department for 3 financial years, 2013-14, 2016-17, and 2017-18. So I just ask members if there are specific questions that we would like to direct to the Auditor General in relation to this. Member Sibley.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, before I move to the appropriation account specifically, Chair, if you can recall, some weeks ago, we were given a document marked Public Accounts Committee, Auditor General's Department, May 11, 2021. And at that time, Chair, I had expressed that I'm seeing the document for the first time and would not be able to ask questions from this particular document. Chair, I have since gone through the document and would like to ask some questions with regards to the documents that was submitted to us.
Okay, so let me ask, first of all, you have questions on the appropriations that you want to ask as well?
Yes, Chair.
All right, can we take that first, and then we can come to this one after the appropriations?
Chair, I think it is more appropriate for me to ask questions with regards to these documents because it may touch and concern the appropriations account.
All right, go ahead, member.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Madam Auditor General. How are you? Good. You had submitted these documents to us. You were the one that submitted these documents to the members? Yes? Right. I looked through the document and I recognized that a number of things that you have submitted would have discussed them already. Okay? So I want to talk to you with regards to the tab that mark relocation information. You're there?
I am there, Mr.
Thank you. When I looked at a particular document that is dated May 30, no, forgive me, 2013, May 2nd, National Insurance Fund, care of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. And it says,
Member Sibley,
attention.
just for our benefit, you can just refer us to which document you're speaking of. I'm by the tab with relocation. I just want to follow you, so.
Right, it's the pages are not numbered, Chair, so it comes after the lease, what is the lease, and an addendum, attachment 2, addendum, attachment 3, and then after attachment 3 is a single page, you have that which I'm talking about.
Is that the letter from the NLA?
It's a letter from the National Insurance Fund.
Oh, National Insurance Fund. Okay.
May 2013, May 2.
All right, yes, I'm seeing you now. Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Madam AG, I notice in this letter where it said parties to the agreement, the lessor is the Commissioner of Lands, and the lessee is also the Commissioner of Lands. Madam Auditor General, I am concerned because it is trite law that the lessor and the lessee cannot be the same person.
Mr. Sibley's, I hear what you're saying, but that really is not a question for me. That's a question for the Commissioner of Lands. All properties owned by the government are vested in the Commissioner of Lands. So I am not the one to provide you with the explanation around this. I can just tell you that the Auditor General's Department is not a corporation sole and cannot negotiate these matters on its own. Everything in relation to land, but so I'm not the best person to answer that question for you.
But you see what I'm talking about.
I don't see what you're talking about.
The page.
I see what you're speaking of.
That's what I'm asking you.
But no, I don't see it as an issue.
Okay,
right.
You don't see it as an issue.
No, I don't see it as an issue, but
okay,
I think
thanks.
it would be best then I do believe that the properties owned by under the charge of the NIF are vested in the Commissioner of Lands. So it is, I guess it's an unusual situation, but it has to be explained by the Commissioner of Land.
Very well. And Madam Auditor General, you may not be able to answer some other questions that I have as well, but I'm going to ask them and you can let me know if you are able to answer them. All right? Thanks. I look to attachment 4.
What is exactly is attachment 4? Please guide me.
Attachment 4 marks National Land Agencies, right after that, which I just spoke to.
Okay, yeah.
The Commissioners of Land, it was signed by a member from the Commissioners of Land. And this letter is with regards to the negotiation. And was it the Commissioner of Land who was assisting in negotiating on behalf of the Auditor General?
The Commissioner of Lands negotiated.
Thank you.
Yes.
You see, Mr. Chairman, the difficulty I'm having going through these papers is that the commissioner's land, based on the previous letter that I asked the Auditor General about, is a lessor and a lessee. And the Commissioner of Land is giving advice to the Auditor General as it relates to the lease arrangement, the negotiation. There seems to me some conflict there, Chair.
But sorry, just to be clear though, in the letter you're referring to dated December 11, 2009, it appears as if the person who the Auditor General is negotiating with is a private individual.
No, Chair.
Finance and Capital Limited?
Chair is not a
Correct, Mr.
private.
Chairman.
Huh?
Correct. You are correct.
Yes.
They're two separate periods.
It's two separate issues, yeah.
Yes.
That's separate issues.
Look at the date of the letter, Member Sidley.
The 2009 relates to Waterloo Avenue. The company is Finance and Capital Limited. The principal is named there and his attorney. So that's a private company. So the Commissioner of Lands, as the government entity that manages real estate on behalf of government agencies, was providing guidance to the Auditor General.
I stand corrected, Chair. So I'll move on to so in the final analysis, Madam Auditor General, the Auditor General Department leased the property from let me make sure I have the correct name here, Finance and Capital.
That's correct. That's the 2009.
Right, and in 2013, the minister.
2014, we relocated to the building owned by the NIF, to the space owned by the NIF.
NIF.
Correct.
Very well. And that was negotiated by the Commissioners of Land as well?
All such matters have to be negotiated by the Commissioner of Lands. I don't have the authority to enter into such arrangements.
And therefore, when you would have signed a document dated February 13, 2014, which is attachment 7.
As witness, yes.
Right, you were signing with the Commissioner of Land.
With the Commissioner of Lands, not with the Finance and Capital. This is in relation to 40 Knutsford Boulevard. So this would have been sent to me by the Commissioner of Lands.
Yes, and you said you signed, you signed as a witness?
No.
Was it?
No, I have to correct my statement there.
Because it is of concern because you have no standing And
I would have to check why it is
And
that
you would-
the NLA would have sent me this, their legal team would have sent this to me, so I would have to verify with them why this was sent to me for my signature.
yes, but it is your signature.
Oh, no, this is for request for possession of the property. Right, so it is for possession of the property.
Yeah, it's not a
I did
lease.
not sign the lease, it's for possession of the property. Yes.
Is
So
a
this
schedule.
This is confirming that I have taken possession of the property. See, it says pursuant to the approval obtained from the Honorable Minister, the Commissioner of Lands, acting for and on behalf of the National Insurance Fund, hereby authorizes you to enter and take possession of the land, more particularly described in the first schedule. And so that sets out, and I would have signed to say that we have taken possession of the property.
So, I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. So, the Commissioner of Land would be giving you the possession of the property.
You know, I don't want to say anything more on it. I would rather someone from the Commission of Lands explain the process so I don't mislead anyone here.
Yes, because it is, I'm from the first document, Chair, which state that the lessor and the lessee is the Commissioner of Land. It seems a bit strange to me, Chair, because a lease cannot operate with the lessor and the lessee being the same person.
Well, it only
And
in this,
Chair, and further, if it is that, and this was this negotiated in US dollars,
No,
Jamaican dollars?
yes.
So this was after the US dollar arrangement. This was subsequent to the US dollar arrangement.
Which US dollar arrangement are you?
Let's say, I'd say a $15 US per square foot arrangement.
We didn't have that arrangement with NIF.
No, I'm not talking with NIF. I'm asking you if you had
That's
it,
with Capital and Finance.
capital
Correct.
and finance. I'm asking if this is subsequent to that arrangement.
Yes.
Very well.
Member Clark. Use your mic, please.
Good morning, Mr. Clark.
I did ask a question, sorry, and I was presented with an answer, but I want to get some clarification from you. It says, what was the period? The question asked, what was the period between the date that the lease was signed until it was fully occupied? The response I got was the lease agreement was signed on May 10th, 2013 by the Commissioner of Lands acting on behalf of the National Insurance Fund and the Auditor General's Department. Possession of the property was on September 19th, 2013.
2014. Oh, sorry. No, you're correct, 2013.
Just tell me which document you're reading from, this one, the answers?
Question,
This
the
one?
answer sheet that was given.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Question 9.
Question 9, all right.
The internal audit could not confirm the exact date of full occupation. However, invoice for haulage of furniture and equipment was dated February 11, 2014. In the Auditor General's Department response, dated March 11, 2020, to the Speaker of the House, the Department says, quote, "We relocated to the new premises at 40 Knoxford Boulevard on January 21st, 2014, 5 months after the Auditor General Department took possession of the property." The question is, what caused the delay in movement for over 5 months?
Thanks for that question, Mr. Clark. So as you would have read earlier, We signed the lease agreement in May. We had an agreement with NIF that we would not commence the payment of rent until we take possession, and taking possession would coincide with when the contractors, of course, the NWA managed the process, would commence site visits for the renovation. The renovation, the bids went out in September. The contract was awarded the first week of October, and there was a delay. The contractor did not obtain the guarantee in the time expected. It took him 1 month to get the bank guarantee. So the contract, the renovation did not start until November. And the contract period should have been October to February. We moved on January 21st. So during that period, it would have been the renovation process.
And rent was being paid during that time?
Well, it had to be paid because we now had possession of the building.
It was Jamaican money
dollars.
And not US
No,
dollars?
we've made no payments in US dollars.
But it was quoted in US dollars?
No, not that rent. The NIF rent is in Jamaican dollars.
Do you see a $3 million? If you have to sign off on an invoice for $3 million, would you think that is something that you take note of? Or you just arbitrarily would sign off on it?
I don't understand the question, Mr. Clark. Please put it in context. Yes.
Let me put it this way. If an invoice is placed in front of you for your signature for $3 million or more, would you question the situation to make sure that you're abreast of what the money is for?
I believe what you're asking me is a requirement of what would be expected of all persons. So you're asking an arbitrary question. So I don't know if there's a particular issue that you'd like to raise.
Madam, the next question. Are there any expenditure for the year 2019-2020 that you would have signed off on for expenditures over $3 million? Anyone?
I don't sign off. I will not sign off on any invoices. I would not sign off on any invoices. What would come to me is an approval for the procurement. But an invoice, I really don't know. So if there is anything that you are alluding to, probably it's best you could bring me up to speed on it, and then I will answer directly.
Are there any expenditure that you have approved for over $3 million?
I don't know.
You don't?
For what? I don't know. I'm not aware. That's why I say if there is anything that you have, you could provide it. I think probably that would help me with my memory.
We're not hearing? All right, just when we're speaking, just speak closely to the mic so that the minutes can be captured and Hansard reflects what we're saying. Member Clark, you have a specific follow-up?
Mr. Chairman, the question that I would pose to Madam AG at this time, and I want to put it in a way that I will get a clear answer and nothing can be construed as being misrepresented. The question, Madam AG, is how do you view the action of nepotism?
Mr. Clark, I really don't have I don't think that is the view that I'm supposed to provide here. No, I don't have a view to provide on that. I think my reports speak clearly to any position that I would have on that.
You don't have a view?
No, Mr. Clark, I'm willing to respond to direct and targeted questions.
Member Clark, you have a specific question on it?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do. Madam AG, in 2012, you would have gone to Canada to audit the program.
Yes.
Within the scope of audit interviews that you would have done, did at any time anything that came before you could have been constituted as nepotism? You didn't find anything?
When you say nepotism, because if you're bringing that matter to me, are you speaking about any matter that would affect me personally? I'm not aware of anything.
No, madam. No, not you personally.
You're asking about the audit of the Canadian.
I'm asking about the program.
Mr. Clark, I shared at the last meeting a full report providing extracts of all matters that I have reported on at the Canadian Farm Work Program. So I would have shared any matter that I found that I deemed questionable would be included in there. You're asking me about the 2012 report. I cannot speak without reviewing what the matters that were reported on. So I must tell you that you caught me off guard because I was speaking about the relocation. So when you asked me about invoices, I thought you were speaking about our financial statements. I didn't know that you had now moved over to the Canadian Farm Work Program. So you can understand my confusion because I'm jumping between issues. I would have to update. I'm not going to answer a question if I don't know the context in which it is asked. And clearly, Mr. Sibley's had said 3 meetings ago that I did not provide reports for the years, for some years that I went to the Canadian Farm on the Farm Work Program. And I provided information to the contrary, to say that would have been false. Save and except for 1819, all reports were provided. And what I did in actually providing a response, I submitted the extract. So if you review all the years that I have reported on, you would see the issues, the concerns that were raised.
Madam, I'm quite aware that Member Civils did ask a question, make the comment, and you did provide the information. It is on that grounds that it is, in my opinion, that you, in presenting all those documents that Member Civils said that weren't presented, that you would have gone over the document that you're presenting. And so, I'm asking you the question now.
I assure you of one thing. Any matter that comes to my attention for which I deem it irregular or I have some questions, I'm going to report it. So if I have not reported it, it's because I have not seen it.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Auditor General. Mr. Chairman, there is a document that speaks to the employment of liaison persons in Canada on the Canadian program. Not one, but 2 persons that I will say to you now that were directly related to the then Minister of Labor, who has responsibility for the farmer program.
Let me ask you, member, is that what you're referring to? Is there a report which speaks to that you're referring to?
There's a document.
Could we reference it so we know what we're speaking about?
I present it to you, sir.
Okay, all right. Our members, are there any other questions related to the document presented by the Auditor General or specifically the appropriation accounts? Member Sibley's, you said you had questions on the appropriation accounts. Can we
Yes, Chair.
take those questions
As I
now?
had said to the Auditor General the last time we were here, that I would really want to talk with her on the variances.
Just tell us you're starting with 2013-14? So
Yes, Chair,
okay.
because Madam AG, the first thing I want to talk to you about is the compensation of employees. During that time, it point to unfair vacancies, the reasons for the variances for salary and travel expenses.
Member Sibley, just help me. I'm on 2013-14. Which page you're on so I can follow you?
Chair, I'm looking at the sheet where Mrs. Ellis' signature, the Auditor General's signature is on.
Go ahead, Member
Yes,
Sid, please.
Madam AG, the variances in salaries, compensation to employees seems to increase in 2016, 2017 to 28 million. So I am seeing where we are having variances noted. It is positive variance, but as you would aware, variances for more than 5% in either direction is cause for concern, because what that says is that monies could have been allocated to other ministries and they were allocated to the Auditor General's department and they were not used. These funds were not used.
I'm just trying to locate the actual appropriation account. I have the analysis here because I think on the appropriation account, no, he's speaking to 1617. I need the explanation. Yeah. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I think I came down with all the records, but in jumping around for other, I seem to have, okay, I found them here. And you're saying for 1617, you're speaking about the compensation of employment for activity 21. Okay, so I just want to bring your attention to the variance sheet. Now look on page 2 of that sheet, I'll explain what happened. So under activity 005, there is a savings of 28,469, and I think activity 005 is administration. However, if you turn the page, you will see that there is an excess under activity 0280 for activity 21, compensation of employees. What happened in this situation is that in late 2015, this is after we would have submitted the budget to the Ministry of Finance, a new establishment was circulated. In that establishment, the allocation of the staff in the department changed. So what is reflected on the appropriation account is a shifting that we did between the activities for the employees to reconcile with the Establishment Act. So before, persons were reflected on the activity 005 that were a part of the audit pool. The new Establishment Act addressed that anomaly, and I guess that's a long-standing arrangement that was in. I can't provide explanation, but the new Establishment Act addressed that, and we relocated the expense related to the individuals under the activity that they were related to. So a large part of it will be covered with the 28 million, that savings of 28 million. 11 million is explained by the shifting that took place. Now, another thing is, you would have stated there, the post of editor remained unfilled, and I explained before, as it pertains to when I spoke about the procurement officer, that with all good intentions, you go out, you commence the recruitment exercise with the intention of filling the positions, but you do not get the suitable officers.
The challenge you'd understand is that it seems to be a recurring thing with the compensation and of employees, the variances. And I am of the view that we don't want funds to be tied up.
I can assure you, member siblings, that whatever we submit, we're not ambitious with our budget. And in fact, I think we tend to be, well, we have to be conservative with our budget because the ministry demands it. We have a ceiling and we cannot go above that ceiling. And usually the ministry is not going to fund unfilled position. And in fact, they are not going to, when we put forward a budget with the anticipation of recruitment, the ministry may not give us that sum in the appropriation that is approved, but would say to us that when we are ready to embark on that process, that we should actually advise them and they provide the funding. So, and I'm telling you this based on what I know happened there. I'm sure that probably if we dig deeper into it, there are other reasons that we would have, but the savings is not quite 28 million. In fact, let me just have a quick look.
Madam AG, while you're looking, I'm also going to put your attention to 2014-15, where the variance was 135 million.
Yes. Because the ministry, of course, provided we with the funds, but they did not approve the compensation package, so we could not spend the money. Right, it was a reclassification exercise, but it was not made effective until the 1st of April 2015. Right, so we had to return the money.
But this is, assist me, I'm looking at the date and it says April 1st, 2014 to June 30th, 2015. So, assist me.
Explain that for me, please. I'm going to allow my director to speak.
Morning. Okay, so the period that you're looking
Just
at.
identify yourself,
Oh,
please.
sorry, Georgia Gale, accountant. The statements goes from April to June 2016, and that would be inclusive of period 13. So the financial year runs from April to March, but we are given additional periods to finalize our accounts.
But why, and therefore my question I am of the view is relevant in light of, and probably the AG and or yourself could just explain a little bit more, expand your explanation a little bit more, because we were told earlier that it's the 1st of April 2015. So,
So just to confirm, you are looking at the appropriation accounts for 14-15.
it says for the period number, it said period number. It's in your document that you could look in your document that you provide, the document that you sent to us. This document that you had sent to us.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
It said period number close to 13 unknown, April 1st, 2014. Maybe the accountant will have to jump in here who manage the books to 30th of April. I just want to know what went wrong or what is further explained, because
Right.
you can imagine it's 135 million in variance, and so we'll have to ask that question.
But just to say generally that sums may be provided to you under the Appropriation Act, and that is provided with the anticipation that certain actions would take place to give authority for the spending of that money. If that doesn't happen, we cannot spend it, and that's what happened in this situation. So as it pertains to the appropriation accounts that you're looking at, this for the financial period ending March 31st, 2015. Now, I don't know if I'm the best person to explain, but there is an allowance that is provided for tidying up your accounts. That is between April and June. That is what is referred to as period 13, but payments are not made. You're not permitted to make payments during that period, but you are permitted to close out certain transactions. So as I said to you, the sums were provided for the 14-15 financial period. We did not get the approval from the cabinet for the reorganization. That is the approval for the salary increases. That decision was not made until the financial period 15-16. So though the ministry provided us with the funds to pay the increased salary, the approval was not granted, so we cannot spend the money, we had to return it.
Thank you, Madam AG. So my further question is, when funds are allocated and there is a challenge, what's the process of the Ministry of Finance pull back the funds and reallocating it? You did imagine it's 135 million that could be spent in the Ministry of Health, in the Ministry of National Security, and so to have that 135 million sit there for an entire period.
Well, I am seeing that in the first supplementary estimate, the ministry actually pulled back some of the funds. They pulled back $61 million. But I think you want to know the process. And I think to understand really the context of the appropriation accounts, we have to go through this process. I'm going to ask, you want to know the process?
What I want to know, what is your role if you, as the Auditor General, managing the budget, the funds come, what is your role in recognizing that a certain event is not going to take place? Do you have a role in alerting the Ministry of Finance as to these funds being sitting there allocated and not being used? That's what I want to know.
So what I need to clarify as well is that though amounts are included in a budget, it's not necessarily funded. So what you are seeing here is a comparison between what was approved in Parliament and what we actually spent. We did not receive all this money. But
Madam
we did not
AG,
receive
Madam
the money.
AG, I got
Yes.
it that you never received the money. That's all right. What I'm talking about is that it is budgeted, and it is when the Ministry of Finance, I take it, or persons are looking at the appropriation account, the money is assigned.
We have
and
a budget
and I'm
officer.
asking
Yes.
what role you would play in being aware of having certain knowledge, if you play any role in alerting or so on.
Actually, the ministry would know before I do, because it is the ministry that is supposed to grant the approval, and there is a budget officer at the ministry assigned to the department who actively reviews this, because we have to present our cash flow request on a monthly basis. So we have to stipulate. So we would have stipulated at some point in time that, well, they would also know, because when we submit our budget, it is approved on that premise. What you are asking me, what is my role in it? Our role is to request the sums that are required. In this particular situation, I would not have had to say to the Ministry of Finance that, look, this is not going to happen because we have not received the approval from you, because they are well aware. There are other instances. I think there is the 18-19 where you would have seen that there was an excess because the forensic audit, that procurement exercise did not real any success as planned. In that situation, the ministry would not have known, and so I wrote to them before the end of the year to say, look, the procurement exercise was unsuccessful, and I would have made my recommendations as to what should be done in that regard.
I'm moving down the line to Object 22, traveling, and I'm trying to be efficient in going through these appropriation accounts. So when I move down the line, I'm looking at all three appropriation accounts that is before us. So can you just explain what account for the variances as it relates to Object 22, travel expenses?
Okay, I'm going to read what is there. I don't think I can provide you with anything more than that. Anticipated travel expenses prove less than the actual due to a number of factors, such as acting assignments. An officer who was in receipt of a partially maintained vehicle no longer benefit and was paid full upkeep. In addition, the traveling allowance attached to the chief internal auditor was allocated to this activity, but provisions were erroneously requested in activity 0357. Savings, not excess. Okay.
Yes, and therefore, this is something that you probably would be aware of, and you would have taken the same step that you explained earlier that you did with the forensic.
But this is an excess. This is not a savings.
Yes.
So,
this is not. No. This is savings.
oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at 1415. So 1415 for 22 is an excess. It means that I'll have to open.
No, 1415 is revised estimate 69 million. Total net expenditure is 62 million. It would be a savings, Madam AG, unless we are
I don't know.
at cross
I don't know
purpose.
what you're looking at.
1415.
The overall. Okay, fine. Okay. I need to find it. You said something about 62 million? Okay,
Yes, I
so
did.
for 1415, there was a savings of 7.4. And you're saying, what is your question in relation to that?
Would this kind of savings be one that you would be alerted to based on your explanation?
Yeah.
And would it be being alerted to it and of the fact or the facts? Your step would have been to inform the Minister of Finance?
And the ministry would have been informed at some point in time that the expenditure would not be at the level anticipated, and that is what would have influenced the amendments in the first supplementary estimates. Because and what I know happened in, I think 16, 17, there was increased travel. This is
this is 1415.
Mr. Okay.
I'll pause and let you, the accountant
Okay, this is
point it out to you.
for 7.8. Okay. All right, so what I'm told is that the savings accrued from the resignation. And what? Unfilled vacancies. So it's a combination of resignation and unfilled vacancies.
Thanks, Madam Auditor General. But the second part of the question, would this be a situation that you would have alerted the Minister of Finance and you said yes? I thought I heard you said yes. And the first supplementary, you had said that the first supplementary, there was some adjustment, or you weren't talking to this, or
I was not
you
speaking to
misspoke.
that. No, I didn't misspeak. I used an example of a major
No,
expenditure.
No, man, it's
which
not that. It's not that, Madam Auditor General. When I was asking about this figure, about the savings of 7.5, earlier you gave me an example of the forensic, and I quite understand that. Right. I was asking, with this situation, if you had
No.
alert. Okay.
No, because I don't know that the Ministry of Finance has set times, and I could ask the representative from Ministry of Finance to speak to their process. There are set times that they intervene to find out what our planned expenditure is like, which is why we're required to do a cash flow requirement. So on a monthly basis, the Ministry of Finance is seized with the expenditure pattern and the planned expenditure. But I could ask the Deputy Financial Secretary for PEC, but I'm sure you want better particulars on this and to understand the situation better. So I'm asking if you could allow her.
No, it's okay. I soon talk with the representative from the Ministry of Finance. I just want to go through all of...
Hold 1 second, Member Siblings. Member Williams has a related question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Auditor General, I just want to refer you back to the 2014-2015, the object summary, the appropriation account. And just to go back to the description, compensation of employees. I know we have moved on a little from it, but just to clarify something you said earlier, I'm just trying to fathom it, understand it. So am I to understand clearly that the compensation of employees, the original estimate was 391,637 for that period?
Correct.
So the negative, the 61,478, 61,478 that was held back in the first supplementary estimate, it would be subtracted from that 391, that 391,637, correct?
Correct.
No, I don't know if you're, because you mentioned that 61 million was held back under the first supplementary estimate. I don't know if you say that to mean that the variance would have been impacted or affected, would have been reduced. The net variance there for compensation of employees is 135,952,242.47. Now, what I'm understanding is that even with the 61 million being held back at the first supplementary estimate, the variance, it doesn't affect that variance of 135 million, in the sense that it would have already been held back from the first supplementary estimate. So if you're looking at the figures, the revised estimate was 330,159,000. The total net expenditure was 194,206,757.53. Now, I don't know if my math is correct, but I presume it to be, which means that the net variance would be as a result of subtracting the net expenditure from the revised estimate. Am I correct?
That's correct, yes.
So that 61 million does not figure into the net variance of 135 million. It is what it is. The net variance is 135 million because the 61 million would have already been subtracted during the first supplementary estimate. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Correct.
So that if that 61 million, and I stand corrected, I'm guided, if that 61 million was not withdrawn at the stage of the first supplementary estimate, then would it be correct to say that the net variance probably would have been almost 200 million?
Through Mr. Chairman, which is why I'm asking the Ministry of Finance to come in. The Ministry of Finance would be aware of what we can do with the money that has been provided. They would be aware that the sum that they have provided to us, we cannot spend it because we don't have the approval. I cannot provide an explanation for the decisions taken at Finance. It is the Ministry of Finance that determines what they leave and what they take. In this instance, they only took 61 million, which means that they redirected 61 million from us elsewhere. I don't know why they did not take the rest of the money, Mr. Chairman. But it is not for me to say to them, take the money. That is the Ministry of Finance who would take that action.
Madam AG, I understand that point. I just wanted to be clear that, be clear when you say, because you did refer to this as I don't know if it was in the form of a defense or an explanation, but the impression I got was that 61 million from what you said was withdrawn from, and I was getting the impression from the 135 million, which would have reduced the net variance, to soften the net variance. So that is where I went with my question, to just ascertain that the net variance of 135 million $952,000 to $952,247.47 is what it is. So even though the government had taken, the Ministry of Finance had taken back 61 million, you still had a net variance of 135 million.
Correct.
That's
for correct.
Compensation of employees.
Yes.
And as my colleague, Member Sibley says, to have this kind of money in an agency when not used, so there is, let's say, had that 61 billion, well, we cannot speak, that 61 was taken, so that 135 million is sitting around. And I'm getting to understand that you're saying, Madam AG, that that's a question for the Minister, Madam Auditor General, that's a question for the Minister of Finance. No, my follow-up question to that is this, the Ministry of Finance. My follow-up question to that is, this original estimate of $391,637,000 that was allocated to your department for compensation of employees, which would mean salaries, etc. On what basis did the Ministry of Finance made that allocation? Would it have been on the representation of the Auditor General's department's accounting department or budget department? Why, on what basis was that allocation made?
Based on the proposed salary increase, which should have been paid in 2014-15, but the ministry did not give the approval until the 2015-2016 financial period and made it effective April 1, 2015.
Thank you very much, Madam AG.
Well, Ms. Blake, in relation to the questions that have arisen about the monies that were the variance and what would have been taken by finance or not, could you, if you don't have the specific answer to this, the general principle by which the ministry operates in relation to MDAs?
Mrs. Rose to answer.
All right. The process, as explained by the AG, is correct. She would have presented her budget based on what she proposed to do. And there is a cash flow process that is done on a monthly basis. Now, during that process, there is some dialogue, and the expectation on both parties is to communicate any change or expected change.
Yes, Member Sibley.
Thank you, Chair. And thank the Ministry of Finance, because that is my understanding as well, that there would be a dialogue between both. So I want to move now to Object 25. In 2013, 2014, the year 2013-14. You're there, Madam AG?
I'm looking for the summary for, okay, yes.
Right. So I'm just going to try and do across the three.
Right.
13-14, a savings of 22 million, and I see your explanation. Okay? I want you to be aware that when I ask these questions, I would have seen the explanation. Right? And 14-15 is there. And I'm going to ask you, having this in 13-14, of 22 million, what actions were taken? Because I expect there would have been a dialogue, as the Ministry of Finance said.
What action was taken in relation to what?
The savings, the variance. Just explain.
Right, so let me say to you, just as indicated, there's dialogue with the Ministry of Finance, and if we're not able to spend the money, we're going to say what a major activity that we want to execute based on time, and we are not going to be able to execute. It is for the Ministry of Finance to determine whether they are going to take back the money. And sometimes this explanation, the development would take place after the passing of the first supplementary estimate. So the ministry would not have an opportunity at that point in time to redirect when invoices are coming in late or when the procurement activity is not completed within the particular time. What the Ministry of Finance would do is that they would make note of it, and we would say to them that we're going to carry this transaction over to the following financial period. And where they can provide for it in the upcoming financial period, they do that. But there is constant dialogue with the accountant and the budget officer that is assigned to the department at the Ministry of Finance.
So
there's just something that I want to clarify, and that is in relation to the allocation of funds. A ministry or department of agency, despite what is shown on an appropriation account, may not get all the money. But when you're doing the appropriation account, so when we speak to $300 million, we did not get that money. The ministry would not provide us with the funds unless we say we need it. So it is there for the ministry to reallocate. Now, I'm just letting you know, because the suggestion is that there is this 135 million or somewhere that is just sitting, waiting on the Auditor General's department to utilize. No, that's not how it happens. And if the ministry is seized with the fact, which they would have been, that the Auditor General is not going to utilize this money, if they have need for the money elsewhere, they are going to reallocate the money.
Madam AG, I'm fully aware of the procedures. And I am fully aware that heads of agencies and heads of department, there would be some sort of interaction, as was explained by the Ministry of Finance. I'm just asking, in light of the circumstances, with the savings, notwithstanding that the money might not be in a bank account called the Auditor General's department, okay? It's a budget that is approved by the Parliament. And that money sits in the particular objective or so on. And it is not necessarily reallocated if it is appear to my mind that an agency, a department, a ministry, the money is budgeted for. Because if a next ministry had put forward and the amounts are allocated, what I'm saying, where there is savings, and I'm not saying, Madam AG, you prevented it, but the heads of department play a part, a role in the management of the government's budget. So that's why I'm asking, in light of this $22 million savings, what was the reason, and was there a discussion with the Ministry of Finance to say that we are not going to be using this because the The building is not ready. The building will not be ready until a particular time. So it's money that can be reallocated. Would you have had that discussion? And if you had?
We would have had that discussion.
Very well. So, can you explain this on 2013? Object 30, grants and contribution. Okay, I understand. It's okay. It's okay. Capital goods for 2014-15. You seen it?
Yes.
4.5 million.
Mm-hmm. See there. 4.5? Oh, you want me to? Do you have a specific question?
I'm not seeing the explanation here in this document, so there's no.
Okay, so
I'm just, that's why I'm asking, because in this package there's no
fee.
explanation.
Okay, so we had budgeted to pay the license fee for teammate and the support cost, but the cost was actually covered by an international donor as a part of a grant agreement.
Okay. And at what point you were given the grant? You know, that's what
I don't remember that.
you don't recall.
No.
You have more questions, Member Sibley's?
No, Chair. In fact, object 32 is the last
Okay, go ahead.
object. So,
Thank you. Members, are there any further questions related to the appropriations accounts? Any further questions related to the documents from the Auditor General?
just a request. The Auditor General's document, the letters included make reference to other letters. Could we be provided with those, because it makes reference? Usually, I'm used to when a letter make reference to a next letter, that next letter would normally be included.
There are two such letters. I have copies of them here, and I will provide them to the clerk.
Grateful. Thanks.
All right, thank you, members. If there are, Member Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You did ask me if I had information of the sort that I was questioning the AG on, and I made a copy of it. I don't know if you want to read it.
I don't know that this seems to be a report from a news entity in relation to some, what I would term, allegations. Now, I don't know properly that this would be before the PAC, because it's not a report coming from the Auditor General. I've seen what you have sent me, but I don't know that we could properly discuss this as a PAC, because it does not arise from a report from the Auditor General or any other entity. It's a it's a report from a news entity.
So that's the situation, Mr. Chairman, because I was asking the AG the question, Auditor General the question, if she had ever come across such matter. So how do we get this?
We would have to refer back to the Auditor General's report of the farm work program for the specific year to see whether this issue came out of that in the Auditor General's annual report, which would have been done probably for 2012-13 or 2013-14. But we couldn't discuss this here without that report before us.
So, Mr. Chairman, in light of the fact that 2013-2014, which this information should be a part of, the mere fact that it was one of the year that we didn't get.
Pardon me, Member Clark?
2013-2014 was one of the year report that wasn't.
No, Member Clark. Please look at the report that was circulated by Mrs. Douglas Beckford. Not only did I indicate that the reports were sent to the Speaker of the House, I went through the trouble of actually copying extracts of what would have been included in the annual report for that year, plus including extract for the report that I did, which covered the period 13-14 to 15-16, which was tabled in full at the House, and I included it in the document which was sent to you.
So thank you very much, Madam. I am very happy that you did say that you had circulated and you did make copies of that report. So I'm saying to you that, Mr. Chairman, and I would love to get a chance to read the document.
I don't know if this is this is an allegation related to, it's a news item, right? And I don't know that properly it is before the committee.
Mr. Chairman,
if it arises
Mr. Chairman,
from a report, then we can examine what is in a report.
Right.
But what I would do, let me seek advice from the legal officer of the Parliament, and then I will come back to you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
That matter does not, it does not have anything to do with the accounting function of the department. That matter now relates to my substantive responsibility, my substantive constitutional responsibility to review the accounts. I don't know that I'll be coming here to answer questions in relation to that matter. It is the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. It's the accounting officer of the Ministry of Labor and Social Security of the permanent secretary who should be responding to that matter, Mr. Chairman. All the matters that I reported on, and I'm sure if the member examined the report, he will see for himself, those matters were discussed here already at the Public Accounts Committee. All the matters that have been reported on in relation to the Canadian Farm Work Program came before the Public Accounts Committee for the respective year. So I have nothing else to say on that matter, Mr. Chairman.
But, Mr. Chairman, we have not made mention of exactly what it is, but I am now hearing Madam Auditor General speaking definitively to a specific or to the topic that I want to discuss. So I don't understand you. I take it that she have knowledge of exactly what I'm speaking of.
Insofar as it is reported on, Member Clark. Insofar as it is reported on, because I'm going to repeat what I said. I was asked to provide information, and I did. I sent it the very Friday of the week that we held the Public Accounts Committee. The information, you are asking whether such matter is included in my report, and I'm referring you to the report. If you go through the report, Member Clark, you will see the matters that I reported on. And you may be able to satisfy yourself whether that matter was indeed reported on.
So you are saying that this matter was reported on?
Member Clark, I am suggesting to you to go through the reports to satisfy yourself whether the matter in question was actually reported on.
Respectfully, Madam Auditor General, I still did not make mention definitively of the topic that I'm
You
speaking
did.
of. I
You
did.
did. You said nepotism.
Sorry?
You said nepotism.
Fine.
So
and I'm saying the
yes.
specific matter that is at hand, that is before me.
Right.
Is it in your report?
But I don't know the specific matter at hand before you. I've told you to look in the report for the subject matter for the particular year.
Member Clerk, two things. One, I have to seek advice as to whether this matter can be read here at the PAC. And secondly, I will check whether the previous reports of the Auditor General on the Canadian Farm Work Program addresses this particular issue. But I don't want to, I'm not going to go ahead without getting advice on this matter.
I will yield to you, Mr. Chairman, for you to make the necessary checks with the legal department if it can be so done. But even so, if it was read before, is it that we cannot discuss the matter again? That's what you're saying?
Well, put it this way. I don't know that we can discuss the matter here at this meeting. No, if the members decide that they want to revisit a report and all the members agree that this specific report would need to be revisited, then we would have to get the Ministry of Labor to be here, and in the same way that we would examine reports from the Auditor General, then we would have to do so. But we certainly couldn't do it today in the absence of the report from the Auditor General.
And Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Member Witter.
Just to add, if the matter came before us before, and we were satisfied with the explanation then and response, then I see no need for us to go back. We must find some point where we would have been, not satisfied then for us to go back. So I don't think it would be necessary if we would have gone through it already and we were satisfied that the response was sufficient.
Thank you very much, Member Witter, and I appreciate that intervention from you. Members, are there any other questions for the Auditor General? If not, could I thank the Auditor General and her team for being here over the last couple of meetings. And before you depart, just to go back to our schedule, and there is an approved schedule which we had approved in December. The next set of reports that we would look at are the compendium reports of the performance audits of the management systems for the farm and parochial roads for the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation and the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation. So those are the reports that we would examine next week, and we will advise the respective parish councils to be prepared to come next week. And I'll also ask the clerk just to resend those reports. They were sent to us prior so that we can refresh ourselves. Members, is there any other business? Could I have a motion for the adjournment? Member Morrison, seconded by Member Guy. Thank you very much. Huh? Yeah, man, it was seconded already. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm happy that your memory brought